How's it going, guys? It's Gian here from Undisputed Principles. It is a hot one today, but I'm an Argyle House. It is a production, an apparel manufacturer. He focuses on startups. He's ready to get your brand going from idea to finished product. And he does a lot more things, such as setting up your website, finding you models for photo shoots and product shots. So let's talk to Houman in there and get to know him a little bit more.
All right, guys, so I'm here with Houman himself. He invited me to his facility today, an apparel manufacturer, amazing spot. I'm here sitting with the man with the plan, and I just want to, talk about his story, get to know him so you guys can get to know a little bit more about him. So thank you for having me, Houman.
Yeah, thank you, John, for coming. It's a pleasure. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Talk to me about your story about apparel manufacturing. How did you get into this?
Yeah. Well, I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So I started this factory 10 years ago. This is our 10-year anniversary. And at the time, I was running a lingerie store, a pretty popular store in a mall. But, I was buying and selling from other vendors. And I didn't really have a point of differentiation because whatever you're buying at my store, you could buy down the mall, over at Bloomingdale's for cheaper.
Right.
So I decided to create my own collection. I hired a designer. This is around 2011. Pattern makers. I had to run around town like all my clients. Prior to finding me, what they do is they look for a designer. They go to Fiverr. They go to downtown. They look for a pattern maker. And then if they find a sample sewer, then they have to run around and look for a factory to actually make it. There's too many people involved. Well, at the time, I had made my samples, I had all my development, I had my patterns, but I could not find a factory in LA. Now, at the time, and even to today, there's a lot of apparel factories in Los Angeles, but I was struggling with people meeting their minimums. Everyone had high MOQs. MOQ stands for, minimum order quantity.
Right.
And after spending like the summer, I think by then it was by 2012-ish, spend the entire summer running around LA talking to factories and getting kicked out, I said, I'm going to start my own factory because no one is servicing the startups. Everyone wanted, 1,000-piece minimums, 500-piece minimums. Well, for a startup, that's too much inventory. What am I going to do with all that, right?
Totally.
And it's a big capital investment, right? So I determined to start a factory that caters to startups with low MOQs. At the time, I had no MOQs. And we do still have a no MOQ program, and we'll discuss, but we're very low MOQs. But startups come to us because they want a one-stop shop. They want the designers, pattern makers, sample sewers, the factory. It's all here in Los Angeles, all under one roof. We don't farm anything out to anybody, for the exception of we don't do any printing or embroidery here. That has to be done outside. But as far as the manufacturing, cutting, and sewing development, all right here in our factory in the San Fernando Valley.
I love it. So, there's so many golden nuggets here. So, first, you have a problem as a designer yourself. You have your brand, and you come across this high minimum, which is also something that I went across a problem that I had with screen printing. Screen printers also had huge minimums. And so you said, I'm going to take it upon myself to fix the problem.
Right.
And so that to me gives me so much more believe in the mission and the purpose of this, because you literally had a problem that nobody could solve, so you took it upon yourself to solve it.
And the best businesses start from passion and or frustration.
Right.
Right? Because, and for me, it's a combination of both, because I was already in this business for 10 years prior to starting the factory. And it's 10 years now that I've been in the factory side of it. So I've been in this business for 20 years. My frustration was, how come nobody wants to work with me? I was a small startup. Yes, I don't have much volume, but I have money, and I'm happy to give it to you if you produce my products.
Yeah.
And everybody said no. Now, my background prior was, I got an MBA from Pepperdine. Okay. And when I'm running around these factories looking, my eyes are trained to spot operational inefficiencies and cost overruns. And so as I'm looking around these factories, I'm thinking, no wonder these guys are charging so much, because if they just tweak one or two minor things over here, it would improve speed and time and motion productivity over there. For example, when you're cutting items, the distance that item has to travel to production may be, 20 yards, 30 yards, 50 yards. Reduce that speed, and over the course of the year, reduce that distance over the course of the year, how many minutes have you saved? Right? Little things like that. I'm like, why is he cutting over there? And the sewing machines are way on the other side of the building. If they were closer, so anyway, my point is, these little things I'm noticing, I'm like, I could do this. Now, there's a little bit of arrogance involved there, because if I really knew what I was in for, I would have, I probably would have still done it. But it is a very regulated industry. It's an extremely difficult industry. Very tough to run, because we have competition locally, but we have intense competition overseas. We have government regulations. And it's just like, yeah, arrogance, frustration, and optimism all in one. It's like, well, here I am.
Yeah.
And man, but yeah, it's not easy.
Right.
It is fun, being an entrepreneur. I don't care what you're doing, whether you're running a factory or your own clothing brand or you're doing anything whatsoever. Doing it for yourself. What do they say? If you cook the food yourself, it tastes better.
Yeah.
When you make the money on your own, you're not clocking in or clocking out somewhere. You know, the sense of accomplishment is much greater.
Right. No, for sure. And I love hearing that from you. Amanda has a lot more experience than me and probably most of us combined here. So thank you for that. That's a golden.
Well, you're killing it online right now, so thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so for entrepreneurship, I feel like it's the modern way of testing all character traits a human being could potentially have. Like there is a sense of competitiveness. You got, we can't be like going back to more primitive times. We were more territorial and physical as to like taking each other's food and things like that. But I consider entrepreneurship maybe a more civilized way of sort of, playing the game of business and having all these aspects come at play, not to the point of, getting violent, but there is these, like, you can't just rest on your laurels. You got to innovate. You have to evolve. You can every single day only promises the next day. It's uncertainty, right?
Right.
But those things in the long run develop the character traits that I think we all deserve to experience. You're not supposed to be complacent, steady paycheck, which nothing against that. I had my 9 to 5 prior to opening up the business, and I'm so grateful for it because it taught me a lot of the ropes about what to do, what not to do. So you're always collecting information wherever you're in your 9 to 5 or not. But once you take that jump, there's
a like you said, it's more organized in terms of entrepreneurialism in this day and age. It's if you're able to carve out a niche for yourself and make money. You were referencing a little bit back in the old days of, maybe the barter system, right?
Right.
But, in any industry today, if you're organized, if you have a good vision, if you're competitive on all metrics, from branding to pricing to product quality, everything, there's an opportunity to make a lot of money in this industry. Mm-hmm. 1 out of every 4 Shopify site is an apparel-related website. That's 1 out of every 4. Right? Yeah. So there are brands we have so many clients that come and go from here, brands you've never even heard of that are killing it, and it's like, well, everyone finds their own little niche,
right? And
you don't need to sell, thousands and thousands of pieces. I tell my clients, do some reverse math. How much money do you want to make, or whatever that number is, and say, okay, well, in that year, if you want to make X, then do the math, reverse the math, say how many pieces of something do I need to sell to get to that? Be realistic, right? Yeah, so, if you look at you want to make $1 million this year, for example, how many pieces of something do I need to sell at like $50? Now, what's the math on that?
Right, yeah? Right.
And put your mindset, it's like, think big and then work your way back to the first step. A lot of people can't get past the first step. It's like, well, how am I going to do it? Well, don't worry about the how yet. Look at the big picture first. Can the big picture be achieved? And then work your way back to the first step.
I love that. That's like goal setting. At its best. And the reverse engineering is a great advice to give, because that's how then the brain begins to work on work on it backwards.
And you don't need to make. You could make a great living selling, let's say, 10,000 pieces a year. Mm-hmm. Now that sounds like a lot to some people, but it's really not. So let's say you're retailing something and it's a high quality product, whatever. You're doing bomber jackets with like highly customized logos and things made in America. You might retail them for, a couple $100, right? The math on that, and if you're doing, that's a small business. It's a very small business, but you don't need to have a whole lot of infrastructure. You don't need all the employees. If you're only doing 10,000 pieces a year, you and 1 other people can ship them out yourself. Right. But if you want to think even bigger, right? Now, we talked about the subject of employees and clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah.
My issue with the modern work environment is that the employees are never appreciated. I used to work before I got into fashion, obviously. I'm still working, but in terms of working for someone and clocking in and clocking out. And I always hated it. I always it just was like going to work, no matter what it was for me, was like, I just can't do this. Mm-hmm. I have to make it on my own. And I know, and I tell my workers, if this becomes the job where on Monday mornings you dread coming in, don't come in.
Got
Right?
it, got it.
I create a happy, healthy, safe work environment because it's their home too.
Yeah,
You know, and
absolutely.
if you're going to have employees, if you're going to start a business, having been an employee, I believe a lot of times
Right.
you're going to treat your workers much, much better than if you just graduate top of your class someplace Ivy League and suddenly you're a big boss somewhere. And you haven't had that experience, that lived experience of, oh man, I got to get up early and, oh, the cars will start today.
Right, you've been in the trenches. You've
You
been
know,
and
yeah,
no, I saw that. I just wanted to meet the whole team, and the team is enthusiastic. They're ready to help out. Like you can see the vibe is definitely felt there. So I totally see that, and I appreciate that because as you can see in the well, I don't know many aspects of industrial work, but like the apparel industry, yeah, like it's
well, it goes into the quality.
yeah, right, it does,
It goes into the quality.
it does, yeah.
Because they don't work for me, they work for themselves. My sewers are artisans. When you met Ellie upstairs, she's been with me the whole 10 years. Elena upstairs, 9 years. The last person I hired was like 6 years ago. I have very little turnover. And the point there is that A, they love their work, but these are tried and true seamstresses. I mean, they're not going to go work anywhere else. They're family. They come from a line of seamstresses. They've been in this business a lot longer than I've been, and they love what they do. And so they take a lot of pride in their work, but they want to do it for someone that respects them, that understands their struggles. I mean, I know all my workers' names, I know their children's names, I know what schools they go to, I know their spouses, and so when you're a small company and you get to see your workers on a daily basis, you have to get to know and you have to empathize with their struggles,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And so I never want to be the person running a company that people don't want to come into work for.
That's awesome. No, it shows evidently with all their staff. So thank you for that,
No,
100%.
appreciate it.
And like you just said, it is ultimately the passion that goes into every single stitch, if you will,
Yeah.
is represented by the final product. If somebody hates coming to a certain place, it's going to show as well. And so that's what ties into this that I really want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
The LA manufacturing versus. Let's just say anywhere else. Or let's say
Overseas?
overseas.
Okay.
Yeah. LA, US manufacturing versus
Right.
overseas.
So before this, just to give you some context, I was a CEO for two different brands. Both brands did a tremendous amount of volume overseas, millions of units, not just so much millions of dollars. We're talking millions of units. And so I've visited China myself a handful of times, and I've visited factories. I'm not going to say anything bad about the means and methods of the work overseas, but there is definitely cultural differences in terms of labor relations and those things. Now, if you are a startup or if you're a company doing less than, let's say, 10,000 pieces a month, you have to consider these factories, they've got 1,000, 5,000 sewers. You walk into some of these factories, and for as far as your eye can see, they're sewing machines, right? They're looking to make, 500,000 pieces, millions of pieces for a client. So if you come in and you're a startup and you want 100 pieces, you're not going to get the service. You're not going to get the time and attention. They're going to say everything you want to hear to secure the job, and they're going to, you're going to sign the deal, you're going to pay them whatever they charge. But getting the production actually in your hands, that's another challenge because they got bigger fish that they're cooking. Is that the analogy?
Yeah.
Bigger fish to fry. So that's one thing. Are you going to actually get it done? In the U.S., we do focus on startups. We do focus on small batch.
You mentioned that's
right?
pretty cool.
And I'm the owner of my own. I'm the owner of the company. I'm number 2 hard to reach. Most of my clients have my cell phone, right? And because we do everything in house, I don't rely on anybody outside for work. We solve all of our own problems. In this industry, there's a lot of moving parts. Yes, we're going to encounter issues. Yes, we're going to receive fabric, and there might be a stain running down the middle of the fabric. And once we unroll it, well, now we got to figure it out. We're going to solve this problem in the middle of the production line, right?
Right.
So, just a true example of something that happened not too long ago. So, it's the time and attention and quality of work. That's the first thing. Second is, well, now you have international shipping and trade. Then you have customs. Your garments are going to sit on a boat for 12 to 30 days, depending on which shipping lane, because one lane is faster, one lane is slower, and you're going to pay a premium for the faster lane.
Got it.
Right? When the goods arrive in the U.S., it has to go through customs. Do you have a customs broker? Do you know what a customs broker charges? You may have to grease a person or two to release your products sooner, because otherwise it'll sit on the docks for like 3, 4, 5 weeks at least until it gets released. Okay, and then you got to put it on a truck and ship it to you. There's a lot of other costs, and time is also money.
Right.
So it's a lot of other costs you don't think about. Now, assuming you get the goods, it gets released from customs, it gets into your warehouse, and everything's good to go. You add up all of the money that you spent, and then compare it to what it costs us to do in the U.S., it's probably about the same.
Right. Yeah.
It's probably about the same.
People don't factor in time as much as I guess you could argue. And yeah, the customs things happens a lot. These are factors that he knows for sure. So you guys know.
Get to know your customs broker really well.
Right.
Make sure you send them a bottle of wine on Christmas, or because it is a old what do they say, old boys network.
Right.
Right. It's a lot of what do you have for me today kind of mentality. Why should I work for you today?
Got incentivizing me, right?
Yes, incentivizing,
Right.
which is like, look, it's expensive enough to get here. I've already paid my tariffs. So there's FOB and LEP pricing when you come overseas, which is a whole other subject matter we'll talk about later. Depending on which pricing model you're going with, right? The other issue is you're never going to fill a full container as a startup. So you look at all these container ships and all these containers, they're not going to put a container on a ship unless it's filled to the brim, like 100%. Like you can't even squeeze anything in between, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing, let's say, 100 pieces of something, and now we have to wait for that container to fill up, and we don't know how long it's going to take. It could take a day, it could take a week or a month. And what else are they going to put in that container? It's not all apparel. It might be animals. It might be food products that might stink up the whole container, and now your clothing stinks.
Yeah.
These are realities, right?
Oh, that's true.
So now, okay, you have let's say 8 square feet of space in the container, and this big giant container now needs to be filled, and the shipping company is now running around filling it with just about anything and everything. Okay, and now it's on the boat and it comes to you. There's a lot of little variables that you don't think about. So how long does it take to fill a container? Now you have the holiday season, or you have whatever shopping season you're trying to hit. If the container doesn't get filled, it's not getting on ship.
All right.
So you have to fill, and you know how much it costs to fill? Those containers are huge.
Yeah.
You know?
The ones you see in the back of 18-wheelers, those huge containers. They're
Right.
everywhere. So no, that's a great point you're making. I think that it's like it becomes less and less personal as it gets further and further away to a degree. It's more about like optimizing for delivery at the and less personal about what your personal needs may be. But here you're reachable. I mean, he called, I talked to him, he picks up the phone, it's him, and so you can swing by, look at your samples. And another thing to add to that, not only there's a personal touch that you can just reach, come by and physically see, there's the attention to detail that they'll have, but also one part that I think people miss out on a lot is the aspect of taking people on your journey of the creation of your apparel that you can provide by coming to a place like this in LA, which I think people should be really proud of, like that you're making stuff in LA. And if it's somewhere else that may be more difficult, it could be to a degree. I'm not saying it's all of it impersonal, but I think that it carries some weight to come here and create content to take people behind the scenes and show.
Totally. And we're very open and transparent about that. We are not shy. We're very proud of what we've built here. We want you to come, take behind the scenes videos. My staff, they're all camera friendly, so if you want to have them say cheese while they're making the garment for you, we have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
And I invite you guys to try to get that level of transparency from other factories. Certainly not going to happen overseas. It may or may not happen in the U.S., but with us, and tag us or don't tag us, it doesn't matter, right? Because people will, see that, there's a real factory here in Los Angeles with real human beings making your garment, and that speaks volumes to you and your story.
Yeah.
So you want to say that. Also, when you're closer, just to back up a second, when you're closer to your supply chain, you have a much better competitive advantage. So if you're in anywhere in the U.S. and you're working with a U.S. factory, and if you're in L.A. and we're in L.A., you're even closer, you have the ability to be more nimble. We can launch products faster. So people worry about getting knocked off in this business, right? And so by the time we have designed, developed, and launched your product, you can saturate the market before anyone has the opportunity to knock you off.
Mm-hmm.
Move on to the next product.
Well, it's sitting in the container.
But yeah. So meanwhile, brand XYZ is like, yeah, I want to knock that off. They could probably fill a container or two, at least. Point is, if you can saturate the market before your competition does. If you have a unique product or you have a certain fabric that's, a certain color, whatever the case may be.
Trend, you're right.
And the other thing about the overseas factories too, and this is a reality that a lot of people won't realize. If you give a factory overseas, it doesn't matter where overseas, it can be anywhere overseas, a production order of, let's say, 500 pieces. Before they even ship you your 500, they've made at least 100 extra pieces and have already sold it on an Amazon-ish type website.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right?
Very interesting. No, and just you see it. You
And
see it.
there's no control over that.
Yeah, it's international now. It's copyright laws is to
Copyright, trademark laws.
Yeah.
Unless you have an international
Out the window.
trademark. Yeah, what are you going to do? Hire a lawyer overseas?
right.
Is it worth it?
No, that's great news. That's very good insight. That you're
Control. Yeah, having a control, being close to your supply chain, and being able to launch products rapidly. Speed is one of the main forms of competitive advantage. If you're faster, you can be much better than the competition. You continuously launching. People want freshness and newness a lot. So speed is one of several different forms of competitive advantage.
Thank you. No, that's very interesting that you do have that advantage in the U.S. and people sometimes forget about that. So, no, thank you so much. I really feel like
Sure.
I think that one aspect that people may be forgetting is that there is a price to pay for doing things. It could be a cheaper price on the ticket, but there is, like you're mentioning, all these like invisible prices that you still
Things you don't
have.
realize, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for
so
telling-
many. Oh, my pleasure. There's a lot, by the way. There's a lot of hidden costs.
Right.
So,
So
When it's all said and done, when you compare apples to apples and you produced overseas and or you produced in the U.S., compare the costs and say, well, did I really save?
right, yeah. And the last thing I do want to point out, because I'm super excited about this also. So not only can you bring an idea, a sketch, a sample, whatever, they will create the pattern, create a prototype, a sample, and do full production for you, right? And if I'm correct, if you do production here, you can do runs of production with no minimums on that. Correct?
Right. So if we go through the whole process together, if we do your design and development here, then we can do your production no minimums. It's a lot easier to go to a quick production run at the tail end of a development process. So once we finish your development, you say, great, I need 10 pieces. We'll knock out 10 pieces for you, right? And so there are no minimums if we do your development. Now, once we've done your development and given you 10, 20, 50, 100 pieces, whatever you want, we also have wraparound services. So we have all the resources and capabilities to do your photo shoots, launch your websites.
Yeah.
We have a whole digital department. So, we could do all your social media marketing. We could do your ad buys on Meta, on Google, on Bing. So the digital team, they're up to the minute. And they're also right here in LA. So they all work remotely. You can't find a digital person that comes to the office.
Yeah, after the post-pandemic world, you're not getting.
So the team is all remote, and once you're ready to launch your website, we'll just introduce you to the head of our digital department, and she will assist you with everything digital.
Right. Do you guys hear that? That's awesome. This is the first apparel manufacturer that I meet that thinks about the steps after you leave the door, right? Which is like the apparel is done now. What? Well, he'll set up your e-commerce store, photo shoots with models that fit your demographic, that fit the target market that you have, as well as product shots as well for your website and advertising, which is huge.
We want to see you succeed. We want to see the client succeed because, prior to me working in fashion, I used to work in the music industry. And there's something that I take away from the music business. Now, the industry that I worked in no longer exists, right? But I treat my clients like they're my artists. I want to see you succeed.
I love that.
I need you and by the way, we're very selective on who we bring on. We want to work with everybody, sure, right? But we're a small house, so we are semi-selective on who we work with. I mean, if you have some idea that's just not going to go anywhere, you may love it, but I'm going to say, look, I don't see it. Save your money,
right?
But somebody else is going to come through with a fantastic idea. We want to do a whole line of whatever, bomber jackets, streetwear, lingerie, we use swimwear. If we're going to go through this whole exercise together, I want to see you sell more records. I want to help you sell more items, because this is like a little mini record label, the
Right.
second studio, right? The sewers are my musicians.
Yeah,
My
I
stencil,
love
right?
that analogy. I love because I've been using something similar, but I love the fact that you guys understand that he's doing consulting right now because you care before instead of like no, give me your money, I'll do whatever happens. No, you want people to succeed.
If you're for the duration of time that you're my client, could be a week, a month, or a year. Will never be just a week because it takes time. But for the duration of time that you're my client, I do not charge you for consulting. Right?
That's amazing.
Right. If you wanted to hire me as a consultant, probably most startups couldn't afford it. Okay. And why would I not consult to my own clients?
Right. No.
Right? So I've got right now somewhere around 70-ish clients in various stages. Some are in design, some are in development, some are in production. So I am happy to talk to my clients and advise them. Yeah.
How many startups have you launched, please? In the
We're talking about
yeah.
in the last 10 years. So again, this is our 10-year anniversary. I'm very proud to say that we've launched over 1,000 startups.
1,000 startups.
Now, let me tell you, they range from celebrities, influencers. We got rich kids in Beverly Hills to board house moms in the Midwest. We've got entrepreneurs all over the world, really. So I'm just trying to say it runs the wide spectrum of the personality types. It doesn't matter who you are. We've got doctors, lawyers. I have a software engineer right now, a super smart lady in her universe, and she's launching her own collection with us. So point here is it doesn't matter if you have fashion industry experience or not, right? We'll take care of everything for you. Sell me and my team on your vision, and we'll launch it for you.
That's all you need to hear, guys. I have one question for you.
Yeah.
I asked this to everybody that I talk to.
Yeah.
So we're undisputed principles, right? So we live by principles.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, what is one undisputed principle that guides your life, that you live by?
To do it yourself. Don't rely. You know, there's a reason why there's a 6-foot-tall picture of Sid Vicious. I don't know if you brought it up because of this. There's a reason why there's a 6-foot-tall picture of Sid Vicious in my office, signed by the gentleman who was his best friend and photographer of the Sex Pistols. The punk bands of the era, 1976,
Right.
when the Sex Pistols came out, they created so much controversy that no label would sign any other punk band. So the punk bands created their own labels. No magazine would write about them. They wrote and created their own magazines. They called them fanzines. So write them out, scribble them, staple them, and put them in the mailbox. No promoter would book them to do shows. They would play in the back of an alley to whoever showed up. They created a movement, and they did it themselves, right? The do-it-yourself, the DIY, do-it-yourself mentality, the warrior mentality that I don't need outside people. I don't need partners. I don't need investors. I'll do it myself. I built this entire business coming out of a bankruptcy with nothing. You know, people say I started with nothing. I started with less than nothing.
Yeah.
Banks wouldn't come to me and give me a loan after coming in. And that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to share it now because look where I've come from, having hit the ground so hard, prior. But now it's like, it's a badge of honor. I mean, look, I bounced right back up. It's, that was 11, 12 years ago.
Right.
So my point here is the ethos here is don't be afraid to do it yourself and do it yourself and try not to rely on so many outside people. And that's why we do everything in-house. We do it all ourselves and we'll get it done.
I love that. I love the punk reference that you apply to your life. I mean, when it comes to my background on streetwear, it's very like, don't put it in a box. Like you can't even define it. The definition is like that. There's no definition on it in terms of like the style. Punk, huge punk influences, but I really admire your resilience, your ability to get up from adversity. That's what would you be here if it wasn't for that, right? So it's like sometimes we need those rock bottoms in order to be reborn into the next version of ourselves. So
it forces you to think.
Yeah.
Right.
So do it yourself in a country like this. You can do it. All right, guys. So don't. There's no. You have Houman's right here. He's ready to help you guys. If there's anything stop you right now, I think after this, it should be nothing because the man is reachable. He's right here, ready to help you guys out. So
we're not going anywhere. We've been here for 10 years. We'll be here for at least another 10 years.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
All right. Thank you.